You've talked about somebody in their mid 70s going to Sudan. What would some typical destinations be for those people just retired, looking to make that big kind of trip? Like what are you seeing from that?
So I don't take age into factor. I take your fitness level, what you want to do and what you're capable of. And then, we'll have that conversation and then I can help you find what's going to work for you. Age should, in my opinion, doesn't limit anyone.
Hey, Adrian, how you doing today?
I am well. How are you doing, Trevor?
Doing well. Excited about today's podcast. Getting to talk about some travel.
Absolutely. We've got Jill Fost joining us. She's from customadventures.ca. She runs a custom travel agency. I'm thrilled to hear what she has to say about travel in this kind of post-COVID world. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, me too. And especially, with, it's a nice day out today, but it's been just this kind of brutal spring where, it's been, we got snow one day and then it's like plus 19 next day. So yeah, that travel bug is definitely in my head. And I actually have a few clients. I've got one set of clients right now that are in Australia doing that. I've had a few clients come back from some really interesting trips. So, I'm excited to talk to Jill and kind of find out what, her clients are doing, where they're going. Sounds like she's got a really interesting business there and sending some people on some really cool trips.
Totally agreed. I have a client that was back from Antarctica not that long ago. And so I'm sure that will, resonate with Jill, and looking forward to the conversation.
Wonderful. Let's see how she's doing, and let's get her on here. So are you all ready for this?
I think so. Yeah.
First podcast?
First podcast. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome. This is our first recording of this new one. So we're excited to have you on. I know, Adrian, I've been talking a lot about travel and all the excitement around that. So kick it off with something fun and exciting.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this.
I guess we'll just get right into it. And like I said, just, want to have this pretty casual and conversational, but tell us a little bit about, because you have a really unique way of doing travel that is a little bit different than the Expedias of the world and things like that. So give us a little, 3,000 foot, throw in the travel pun here, but, in what it is that you do a little bit differently than other places.
Sure. Yeah. So, if I'm comparing myself to Expedia, and a lot of other people like Expedia, is they're more of a mass market approach, which is not a bad approach to have. It's just they develop things based on the masses, based on, what data has told them as what like the average person wants. And that's great. I mean, their product, it's pre-developed and it's not a bad product at all. It's just, it may not be catered towards what you exactly need. So what my product does is I cater to exactly what you're asking for. So instead of a mass market approach, I'm more of like a small batch approach. And so if someone's coming to me and they're asking for, let's say, a common one, a guided tour of the Colosseum. The guides that we include for the Colosseum, they're specialist guides. They're one of a kind. We vetted them. They are the best in the world. So yes, you're going to pay a little bit more for that, but you're going to walk away with such a greater, more in-depth experience, and not just, that mass market approach that we think that everyone just wants to know. We're going to go a little bit deeper. And that's the main difference with Expedia or other travel agencies than myself.
That sounds absolutely really, really interesting. And I think it really dials into, the type of clients that we talk to as well. I think you and I had a quick conversation about that before, where, our type of client is, somebody who wants that very personalized experience as well. And I think there's just a growing part of the population that is really excited about that. And you, like you said, there is that mass side that's great, and you can go a couple clicks and get a trip or a hotel, but it's kind of going a little bit above and beyond. And so I think that's very, very exciting, and definitely a really niche market there for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like a lot of people like the idea of custom, like they want something that is special and unique, but I wonder how many people don't know what it is that they want. They want custom, but what does that mean? And how do they make that happen? So how much do you find is people know what they want and you're putting it together? And how much is it people coming to you looking for something that's unique and different, but not knowing the specifics of what it is that they are looking for?
Yeah. So actually, funny enough, I would say more than half of my clients come to me and they have a dream and they have absolutely no idea what that looks like. They just know that they want to see something fun and unique, but they really just have no idea where to start or even the country. And I have a strategy to handle people like that. And mostly, I won't ask them where they want to go or what cities they want to see. I just basically ask them what their interests are. Are you a hiker? Are you a cycler? Do you want culture? Do you want to see old ruins? Do you want to see, I maybe experience delicious food? So whatever your natural interests are, then I take that combined with the month you want to go and how much you have to spend. And I can easily go and create something based around your interests and put you in that country. Some people will come to me with saying, I want to go to Spain and I want to do this. But after talking to them, I feel that Spain may not align with them. I may send them to Peru instead because you're going to get that Spanish influence, but maybe the weather is a bit better, or they want to see mountains or whatever it is. So that's very common. And I handle that with ease.
How do you pick the countries? I mean, there are a few, and as you're talking about this, I'm going, thinking about all the places that I've been, and I'm trying to even think about where I came up with wanting to go to some of these places initially. If I heard about something or had something in my mind, but there's a lot of places you can go, and there's a lot of really really interesting places. So how do you get there?
Yeah. So a lot of times I kind of come up with ideas. So a lot of times budget really sets the tone because there are some places that's just it's out of the budget, but I can achieve something very similar in a different place. Sometimes it does take a little bit of just sitting and thinking about it and, going back and mulling it over in my own head. A lot of that does come with experience. I've been doing this for over 20 years. So, and I've traveled the globe myself. So it's just, I combine my experience with my, what I've learned in the industry. And then usually I just pop up with a plan and then run with it. And a lot of times I'm right. But yeah, it's a thought process that goes behind it for sure.
And how many guests are typically on these trips? Like, are you usually just working with one couple at a time, or are a lot of people trying to make these into group efforts? And do you have a preference, or does the work come out better for one or the other?
Yeah, so I actually work with all. So I have a couple of files actually on my books right now for solo travelers, fully customized solo, where they're going on their own, and then I'm setting them up with a guide. And then I also have several very important groups of up to about 20 people that are going. So my range is really what you're asking me. My average is 2 people, so a couple or family, where it's, or a group of friends. So 2 to 6 people is my average, but I will start with 1. And usually I try and encourage people not to go greater than 20, just because now we are no longer in that small batch. We are now in larger vehicles and really impacting where we're traveling. So, but if a larger group does want to go, of course, I'm not going to say no to that. But yeah, so it really depends. But I work with everybody.
Is it more that high net worth person that is reaching out to you, or is it kind of a mixed bag? I would think custom, I think expensive, I think, that side of it. And obviously it's probably a little bit more than, the Expedias and some of these types of things, but is it very high net worth people that are typically reaching out?
So I would say most of my clients are medium to high net worth, just because when we are dealing with custom and because my product is very high quality, it does unfortunately do come with a bit of a price tag. So with that, most of my clients are more in the empty nesters, retired people. But I do get a few people who are traveling on a bit of a budget and they have this dream. And, if we can make it work and get crafty with it, absolutely. I mean, if someone does have a lower budget, I won't send them away. I will always try and work for them because I believe everyone deserves to travel in a unique way. But yeah, depending on what they're asking for, sometimes it does get a little bit pricey.
And some of these pricier ones, what kind of trips are those? Like what's some of those crazy high net worth, like just super extravagant trips? Where are these people going?
It's not necessarily like there are some destinations like Iceland and Denmark and Norway are really, more expensive than others. Patagonia, of course, they're just naturally more expensive because their economy. But it's really what they're adding versus where they're going. So my high net worth are usually looking for those 4-star, 5-star properties. They're looking for private guides throughout their whole entire itinerary, private drivers. So I can develop the same itinerary, for example, in Italy, same routing, same amount of days. One could be 10,000, one could be 50,000. And that's because my 10,000 one, we're joining them up with small groups. They're taking public transportation. They might be taking a taxi to the train station, for example. Whereas more expensive, my private driver is coming to pick them up. I have that private guide, private VIP access, curated experiences. So it can be the same itinerary, just different experience.
How are you finding like the post-COVID travel? And I have a thesis here that people weren't able to travel for a while. If you're in that demographic of the early retiree, like now's your chance to travel. There's this sense of what happens if this happens again and we can't travel again. I feel like people are really headed towards bucket list destinations. And I'm seeing it in my own family because like my parents and my in-laws, between them have been to, like just in the last year and a half, have been to Norway and the Galapagos and a 27-day European cruise. And like these are bucket list vacations in my mind, not a February in Florida to try to get away from Canada and winter. And so I wonder if you're seeing a lot of that, or if it's just my own experience.
No, you're seeing.
And how many of those trips, Adrian, did they invite you on?
None yet. Working on it.
Got to bug them more. Yeah. So I have definitely seen some interesting trends since COVID. The funny thing is Italy seems to be everyone's bucket list. And I think Italy has always been on people's bucket list right from the get-go. And then, mixing COVID with that. And that people were told they could not travel. And so now it seems like I'd say 50% of all my customized itineraries right now are to Italy. And I think it's just because it's like someone told me I couldn't go. I better knock off Italy now before it happens again. So yeah. And as far as post-COVID, the whole world is open. There are some places where they still require PCR, but the whole world, you're back at full throttle. But yeah, Italy is the bucket list for the year.
Where in Italy is it kind of your, Florence, Rome, like Venice, like, or are they going to some of the more off the route kind of places?
Yeah. So most of my clients, and it's probably influenced a bit by me, is, people are always knocking off your Rome and your Florence for sure. I'd say 99% of my itineraries include Rome and Florence based on, your request. But then I usually will talk people through going to smaller villages as well. And most people would agree with that. So all of Italy seems to be a hit. So we'll do those two. And then I have a lot more people going to the Amalfi Coast this year. A lot more people heading to Cinque Terre this year as well. And then I do have these, specialty farm stays and like going for truffle hunting and things like that. That is really in more remote areas. And I'm finding more and more people are wanting to do things like that this year.
Very cool. I think we all have a little bit of a connection to Italy there. It's pretty special. It's where Adrian got engaged in Italy.
Congratulations.
Got married there. Yeah. So it's a pretty.
Trevor got married. It was kind of combine those two things on the same trip.
Yeah,
so fantastic trip to Italy.
Yeah, and I love Italy. It really, even though everyone's going there, it is a worthy destination. Like keep it on your bucket list because it really does. It's special.
Any other bucket list ones that you're seeing a lot of come up right now?
The standard bucket for people, which hasn't really changed in the last, I'd say 10 years, would be Peru is a big one for people. Actually, I'm seeing a lot more people go to Australia this year. Ireland is actually seems to be a little bit more than what I typically would get, but those have always been bucket lists for people. Antarctica is another one that I've been seeing a lot more people go to because it is, hard to reach place. It's one of those bragging rights, and I find for a lot of my clientele that is a bucket list item that I've been seeing a bit more these days.
Yeah, that seems like an outlandish sort of destination. Are there other like off the charts trips you've put together that you can share a little bit about?
So off the chart, most of my trips are off the charts. I do send people all over the globe. So I have, Vietnam and Thailand. I send people to India. I'd say the most off the chart interesting. I would say, so a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, I actually sent a couple on a camping trip to Sudan. So they spent 1 week like tenting it in Sudan. So that was probably the most, not bizarre trip, but most unique, where is completely out of people's comfort zone. They weren't young either. They were in their 70s. So I was very impressed that they ended up doing that. But no, I mean, I do have access to the whole world. So I do see Galapagos Islands. I see the Arctic. I do Arctic base camps as well. And so where you stay in a dome for a week and you go out and do day trips in the Arctic. Galapagos, I said. So really it's everywhere. It's kind of normal for me now because it's quite common. People ask for anything.
What about staying in Canada? Like, are there, awesome options that you do domestically?
I don't do a lot in Canada. I do have some specialty trips. So it's not full throttle for Canada. I can't customize anything, but I do have some really nice product out in Eastern Canada. So I can do PEI and Newfoundland, New Brunswick, and I can customize out that way. I also can offer the Yukon. So some people who are looking for like a canoe or fishing trip or a camping trip in the Yukon, that is something that I can accommodate. And then out east, I do offer something like a Hawaii, and that would be on. So I don't have every product out there, but I do have a small sailboat where you go out into like really remote areas and little inlets, and you go fishing and kayaking, and it's a 6-passenger sailboat, but it's like 5-star, fully catered, specialty guides, everything. And that's really about it for Canada for me.
Cool.
Do you get any requests for Canada, or is it mostly people are looking to get out and go somewhere different?
So I from time to time I will get people asking just for a standard road trip, to the Algonquin and things like that. But no, I do unfortunately turn those away. And but most people, I am known for more global travel. So I'd say most of my requests are for more global, European and South America, like all continents, really. Yeah, not much in the US either. I don't get many requests for the US.
That's not custom enough. Too easy.
It's funny. I haven't developed many relationships with suppliers in the US because it's really hard to sell Canadians a destination that is very similar to their currency and food, driving conditions. People just go and they just figure themselves out. So it's really hard to be a travel agent selling someone, a North American product.
Yeah, it seems like it's just I can go to Los Angeles and figure out that pretty easily, where you're starting to talk about different languages, different customs.
Yes.
Something maybe a little bit bigger, a little bit more extravagant. He needs some help.
Yeah, especially when it comes to the language barrier, and not only that, reading road signs in different countries, even something as simple as Italy, they're impossible to read. So you do need that assistance to help along those ways.
Yeah, and I mean, even the customs where they just shut down at weird times, and you happen to go late to lunch in Italy, and everything's closed between what is it, like 2 and 4 o'clock or something? Like, just like ghost town.
It's true. Yeah.
Is there anything that you can't do? Like, is there anything that's over the top? Any requests you've had lately that are just like, no?
No. So the biggest things that I would turn people away for is if they're asking to go into a dangerous situation, a war zone, or, I don't work with any destinations that have any sort of travel advisories. So that it would be a no-fly zone for me. And a lot of times, the only reason really I turn people away is if their expectations and their budget are not aligning. People do have extravagant dreams, but they do come at a price tag, especially now post-COVID. Travel is a little bit more expensive than what it used to be pre-COVID. And there's some sticker shock that does come with people when they're looking for the custom. So that's the only reason typically. Other than that, no, I really can offer pretty much anything. And the more complicated, the more I like it. So yeah, it's no problem for me.
Amazing. So you've talked about somebody in their mid 70s going to Sudan. What would some typical destinations be for those people, just retired, looking to make, that big kind of trip? Like what are you seeing from that? Or is there one specific thing, or is it a lot of different?
No, so I don't take age into factor. I take your fitness level and your, what you want to do and what you're capable of. And then, we'll have that conversation, and then I can help you find what's going to work for you. Age should, in my opinion, doesn't limit anyone. I actually currently have someone in their 70s doing a snowshoeing trip in Lapland as we speak. So that hasn't stopped her. And she's out there building igloos and going on dog sleds and all that stuff. And then I had another couple in their mid 60s just come back from a cycling trip through the Atlas Mountains in Morocco. And then, I have other people who really just want to sip wine and eat good food for a week somewhere in the world. So no, I don't have a destination in mind for people who are, 60s, 70s, 80s. It really depends on what you're capable of. And then I'll match your needs.
Now, if you had one place, what's your, if you could dream a dream kind of vacation?
Yeah. So back to Antarctica. So if someone had one place and only one place that they could ever go to, Antarctica, hands down. It is one of the most stunning destinations on the planet. It's so visually stimulating. Pictures just don't do justice. The animals, so if you're an animal lover, that is the place, because they don't have they're not used to human predators. So they're very curious about you. Whales come right up to your boats, and the sea lions and the seals, like they really just interact with you a lot more than other places in the world. For me, that would be my number one. Number two, which is my all-time favorite country as well, is Morocco. Morocco was very surprising. If someone wants to learn about, that kind of Muslim culture, but, and it's a little bit outside their comfort zone, Morocco is great because it's beautiful, it's more modern, it's clean, friendly, but you're getting that, desert feel. And it really is like, and it's priced right for people's budgets. Antarctica obviously would be very expensive, looking past the 10,000 per person price, where Morocco is, it's $2,000 and you're getting such a great cultural experience. So those would be my two top that I would say to people.
Both and very, very, very different. With Antarctica, walk me through that trip a little bit. Like what would that look like? Because it sounds really cool. Like I just picturing the whales, and seems really cool.
Yeah. So what you would do is you fly to the southern tip of Argentina for most of the departures, and in a little town called Ushuaia, and then you would take a boat, and we have a number of different boats, but they're all expedition vessels, so they're ice rated and they have all the sonar and everything else. And so you spend 2 days and you sail across the Drake Passage. Sometimes the Drake, it is known as the roughest seas in the world, so be prepared for that. And the boats we use are rated for these type of seas. And then you spend time. So most of it is a little passage just on the peninsula tip, and from there you stay on the boat for the whole entire time. In the mornings, you may head out on a Zodiac and just go explore the icebergs and anything that's kind of sea life that's happening in the water. And then there's always a specialist with you, and they're all university professors or whatever it is, and they're teaching you about like the simplest things like ice. I never knew ice was such an interesting topic, but when you listen to these people talk about it, it's really neat because it's old, millions of years old ice. And then you might spend the afternoon, you go back on the boat, you eat your lunch, have a little rest, and then you'll head back. And let's say an afternoon, you might go onto land and you might go explore a penguin colony, and you'll sit there and watch the penguins or go for hikes, or So it really depends. Every day is loosely done. There's no set itinerary. It just depends on what the weather's like and what kind of marine life is around. And then you basically head out and explore it. So it's really, really quite fascinating. And it's so rich in animal life. It's, you'll see everything.
So how would that compare to the Galapagos Islands? Because a lot of what you've just described sounds familiar, except for how cold it is in the Galapagos Islands. And that, to me, like that would be a bucket list vacation for me personally. So I just wonder how you would compare the two.
Absolutely. So I have been fortunate to go to both. And so for the Galapagos Islands, it is a completely different ecosystem. You have completely different animals there as well. So very similar experience. You're going to head out on your boat. You're going to go on the boat and tour around or go on the beach. It's warm, which is great. So you're not in parkas. So that's a big difference. But now you're dealing with lizards and iguanas and bird life, turtles, sea turtles. So you're in more of a warm climate type of animals. Whereas in Antarctica, now you're dealing with the leopards and the seals and the walruses and the whales as well. So yeah, snow versus sand. But as far as an animal-rich experience, yes, you're going to get it for both. If you're going budget-wise, Galapagos is going to be a little bit more cost-effective. But yeah, both worthy destinations for sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I could be talked into either of those right now. I'm ready for a vacation. I'll tell you that. With this weather just kind of going back and forth, are we spring yet or is it still winter? It's like, all right, yeah, get me somewhere where it's made up its mind, whether it's cold or whether it's warm. Just like let's pick.
Yeah.
Have there been any? And this doesn't have to be from your personal experience. What's the worst? Like, I'm sure there's been just like absolute disaster trip that you've either heard of or something's happened. Do you have any of those kind of stories?
So the biggest disasters that I run into are countries changing their entry requirements like last minute without warning. And I have people like there. So I had a client once, she was flying into Libya, and as she was landing, they changed the entry requirement, and then she needed special documentation, but because they decided on it and then decided to change it without warning, she arrived and they denied her, and they made her go home, and they didn't protect her. This is a country thing, so I can't do anything about it. And then she had to buy a ticket back home. So she spent 24 hours in a plane and couldn't even see the country. And there's just nothing we can do. And then I did have some clients that were so they flew over to Jordan, and they were in Jordan, and they were just about to fly into Israel early in the year. And with everything happening, we had to evacuate them and send them home. So those are the disasters that I feel really bad for clients that they miss out. But, they're just beyond our control. So that's usually what we see. And then another common one, unfortunately, is people in travel and the airline cancels on them. And so I had people affected by that Lufthansa strike that went on, and people were traveling in country, flights canceled. So for me as an agent, I'm sitting there 11 o'clock p.m., trying to scramble, getting people out of bed to, help me rebook flights and, stay on hold for people so they're not standing at the airport, doing it themselves. And so that I feel bad for people because now they're just in country, they're panicking. I can't help them. And they're just waiting for news. So those are the big ones that we hate seeing.
And there's a lot of that happening now with some of these airlines, and Flair's one that seems like it's canceling a whole lot. And I think I was just reading the other day where it was kind of something similar. I don't think it was from anywhere super tropical, where I think there was a lot of flights back to Canada. It might have been Mexico where they just canceled a whole bunch of flights.
There it's, I don't know that specifically because I hear about more of like a global thing, but there's always something. There's always something. Yeah. And then I get clients that get caught in hurricanes and then they get stranded. Yeah. So that's it's just one of those things.
So weather, geopolitical strife, and corporate, poor quality corporate governance or whatever it is. Those are the challenges you face. Fair enough. Do you have clients that fly private to try to get around some of those problems? Is that too high end or too domestic North American focused, or I just wonder if that plays at all for you.
Yeah, so I do have some clients that I do have a supplier with private jets, and so I do have a handful of clients that definitely would fly private. It's definitely not the norm, and so no. Again, if there is a situation that has happened and they're stranded, getting a private jet is usually not the alternative, because that's just, now we're dealing with a 2,000 flight to a $200,000 flight. So it's not something, unless someone's already started out private that way, they're not going to flip to get out of a situation.
Right.
Yeah. And insurance won't cover it.
That sounds like a big ticket for an insurance company. Yeah. Fair enough.
I can just imagine my insurance company as I give them that bill,
Yeah. So I kind of booked a one-way private jet to get home. Yeah.
Good for you. Pay for it, right? Yeah. I don't know, Adrian. Did you have a whole? I think this is. I want to go travel. I just want to go travel and go to all these places. I guess the last thing is, you kind of mentioned like a lot of based on what people want to do and their experiences. You mentioned some biking and different things like that. Adrian and I are both cyclists, more on the mountain biking than the road cycling. Any good destinations that you've seen that we should get out and go do?
Yes. As simple as that. Yes. Please go out and explore the world by bike. So there's no limitations. Like I said, I had clients just come back from Morocco doing the highlight list. I had a group in Sri Lanka about a month and a half ago, a group of 14 that cycled Sri Lanka. I also have... we do self-guided pretty much all through Europe. So pretty much we can set up bike trips anywhere, unless, and it really will take your activity level into account, because we don't want to send you somewhere where it's just all uphill. But anywhere really that works for you, we can develop it. Same with hiking as well. We do quite a bit of hiking and mountain climbing.
I like it.
Jill, thanks so much for sharing everything that you have with us. I appreciate it. I'm sure our clients will appreciate it. A lot of them are, relatively well-heeled and in that near to retire demographic. And so I hope that this speaks really well to the type of people that we are hoping hears this. But thank you very much for coming, for sharing. And we just really appreciate you being here.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate, your guys' time. Thank you so much for the invite. This has been really fun.
Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, Adrian, that was quite the conversation. Definitely has me wanting to get on a plane and go somewhere interesting. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic conversation. I've always had the Galapagos Islands as a bucket list vacation. And so I hadn't considered Antarctica until recently. And for me, neither of these trips are happening anytime soon. I mean, like you, I have young kids, and packing up and taking off for Antarctica for, several weeks or a month isn't in the cards at this point. But definitely, added to that.
No, but how cool would that be with the kids, right? And as she was talking about that, and yes, on a boat in wavy with my little guy in there, probably not the right place. But I'm just thinking about, she's mentioned the penguins and all that. I'm just like, that'd be so cool. Galapagos might be, something that's a little bit more, obtainable, and those kids would absolutely love it. Just, please don't pet the sea turtles, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't want anybody losing a hand. And I know my wife would love to go to Norway or kind of any of the Scandinavian countries. So there's a few interesting things that we'd like to accomplish here in the years coming forward. So just a really interesting conversation with Jill. What are some of your vacations that you've done in the past that still resonate?
Yeah, it's we did a lot of Europe, pre-kid, and there's definitely a few, and one now that you've asked that I hadn't really even thought about, because we talked a lot about Italy, and Italy's been a place we've been to a few times. Obviously, got married there in Florence a decade ago. So it's about time to go back there. So Italy definitely resonated. I love, a lot of that country. We've been to a lot of the different parts. My brother's in Sicily, so we spent some time down there as well. But one of our favorite places was Germany, and the lower part of Germany. I haven't been up to Berlin and kind of that area, but that lower, Munich. I've been there a couple times for Oktoberfest. And then up through like Switzerland and that with the mountains, and it's just it's a pretty special area. Portugal is another one. I know that's been talked about a lot the last little while, but for a small country, it just has so many different pieces to it, from the beaches in the south to Porto and the old kind of port town. Just so many different places. We even got into some of the interior, did some wine tasting in there. So yeah, lots of really cool places. Mostly stuck to Europe so far, but would love to get to some of these more just different types of places as well. How about yourself? What's any cool stories on the traveling?
Well, it's the same for me. I mean, I hadn't done a lot of traveling outside of North America until you dragged me to your wedding in Italy, which was the whole point that we were, both there. And I remember you talking about some of the differences. You really wanted to go do some wine tasting. I gather that's not actually a thing they do much of. It was tricky to get a winery to like open up for a group for us to come wine tasting, unless it was, a big tour where they had it, scheduled, which wasn't the experience that I know you wanted. And you made it happen, and it was fantastic. I mean, we had a great vacation there. We did the Cinque Terre villages. We took the train all over the place. We, like Jill mentioned, like we weren't getting private drivers. That wasn't our approach. We took a lot of public transit. We walked like 36,000 steps a day, and had a lot of fun. I actually, as you know, I asked Jen to marry me there in a little town called La Spezia on this nice bridge I found. It was terrifying carrying around an engagement ring that was a family heirloom from her family. So just, the last thing I wanted to do was lose it. And
Drop
then
it
I
off
was
the bridge.
on a bridge. Yeah, I was still
Because you have done it on like some flat ground where it's like
no, right? Like sitting at a table at dinner with a bottle of wine. Like I can imagine, maybe a better choice. It was high risk, high reward too, though. So it worked. It all worked out fine. I did not drop the ring. We didn't have to go scuba diving. Everything was good.
Yeah, no, and it's terrifying to do that. Making that proposal on the best of times is I don't know, it gets the heartbeat in there for sure. But when there's a chance of losing the ring off of a bridge, I'm sure it was just enhanced a little bit more. But
it's actually funny. Like I did the down on one knee thing on the bridge, and then I closed the ring box and said, "Okay, come here for a second," and took her off the bridge before I put the ring on her finger, because it just. A little bit of insurance is not a bad idea.
as your hand's shaking, you probably don't want to be dropping it off there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned the wineries, and this kind of goes back to having that more custom approach, and with here being in Southern Ontario, we go to Niagara on the lake or the bench, and you basically show up outside of that kind of weird couple of years of COVID, and the doors are open. Especially on the weekends. Most of them, especially the big ones, are open, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, Monday to Sunday. Right. So we went to France a few years ago, and it wasn't like that. We had to get a private tour to take us around. And these places just don't open their doors for, tourism. The wine tourism is just a little bit different there. So, having someone like Jill who can, set that up, make sure that you're going to places that, first of all, open doors, as opposed to, going and knocking on a bunch of wineries that you had, wanted to go to, and none of them are open. So yeah, it really helps having someone like that in your corner to make sure that you're not making these, hometown mistakes when you're in some place that has completely different cultures and completely different ways of doing business as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. It was a great conversation. Had a lot of fun, and looking forward to the next one.
Wonderful. Thanks, Adrian. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again soon.
Yep. You too. Cheers.